Okay, quiet please. We're rolling everywhere.
Okay.
And here we go. And now, Newsmakers Live is proud to present this live online virtual candidates forum. Who will fill the seat of Congressman John Lewis? Well, 7 candidates are running for the office, and tonight we present them to you. Now, here's Newsmakers Live executive producer and creator, James Jim Welcome.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, guests, patrons, and subscribers. Today we are undertaking to bring you the candidates who are running for the late, great John Lewis's seat in Congress. We have special guest moderators on a virtual platform, as is going to be newsmaker policy as we move forward during the COVID-19 pandemic. We will be having guest moderators that are closer in touch with the millennial demographic. Please allow me to introduce our guest moderators this evening. First up is Mr. Teos Wynn, a CEO of Millennial Civil Rights Campaign, social activist, author, and speaker. Second up, and co-anchor or co-moderator is Mr. Kevin Pride, CEO of Atlanta Business Journal and CEO of Influencer 365. I hope you all well, enjoy, and stay safe.
Thank you so much, James. Appreciate it. And we would like to welcome each and every one of the candidates this evening to the special Congressional John Lewis Legacy Forum. We appreciate each and every one of you for joining us this evening, and we're excited to dig right in, to ask the questions that we know the viewers want to hear. And so on behalf of Newsmakers Live, on behalf of myself, and on behalf of the co-moderator, Kevin Pryor, we just want to welcome you to this evening's forum. And so Kevin will kind of explain how the questions are going to work, as well as handle the introductions. Here's to you, Kevin.
Yes, so tonight, each candidate will be asked the same question. You will have a minute and 30 seconds to respond to each question. At that period of time, we would ask that you kindly respect each other's time in this. So I would like to start by having Mr. Robert Franklin go ahead and introduce himself, followed by Keisha Waits, followed by Barrington Martin, then Chase, and then Mr. Stephen Muhammad. Mr. Franklin.
My name is Robert Franklin. I'm the president emeritus of Morehouse College. I've also had the privilege of serving as president of the Interdenominational Theological Center. I'm currently a senior advisor to the president of Emory University. I'm a 30-year resident of the 5th District. I've served as president of 2 anchor institutions in the 5th District. Had a long-standing relationship with Congressman John Lewis, and many conversations in his congressional office in Washington, D.C., and here in Atlanta. And I feel that I am best qualified to honor and extend the legacy of John Lewis in the days ahead.
Ms. Keisha Waits.
Thank you. Again, thank you to the organizers this evening. I am Keisha Waits. I had the privilege of serving as a 3-term state legislator in the Georgia House of Representatives. I've served on some committees that I believe are instrumental in terms of our needs right here in the 5th District. That would be the Transportation Committee, the Public Safety Committee, Juvenile Justice, that dealt directly with issues of criminal justice reform, which you all agree is a major issue today in our society. I am raised in the 5th District. I had the privilege of going to high school and continuing my education right here in the great state of Georgia. I own my home and a business in the district, 5th District, and I've been here for 47 years. I have been a fierce advocate for marginalized communities, including seniors, working families, the LGBTQ community, as well as struggling small businesses. And I look forward to continuing that advocacy work for you in Washington. And thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Waits. Mr. Barrington Martin.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening to everyone, and special thanks to the Newsmakers Live crew for having us all here. To the people at home, my name is Barrington Martin II, and I have the honor of being a special needs educator here within the 5th District. I'm simply here to provide modern day solutions to modern day problems. I'm not here to reinvent the wheel, but I'm here to revolutionize that wheel. I believe that we're at the forefront of political renaissance and that the people deserve more, and now it's time for us as politicians to deliver. I'm born and raised in the district, and the district is something I love dearly. And I believe that because I'm from the district and been born and raised here, I believe that I have a distinct obligation to ensure that my family's friends and all of the people of the great here to be served by someone like myself, and innocent, that someone like myself is the representative of the district. I grew up watching my family canvass representative orange civil rights icons concerning, political office. I have been mentee, from former SCLC President Howard Creasy Jr. And I believe that with such a pedigree and sharing the home with great men such as the great Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., as well as the great Congressman Lewis, it takes a person with courage to deliver on the promises and the dreams that these men have. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chase Oliver.
Hello. First off, I want to say thank you for inviting me to this forum so that I can speak to the voters of the 5th District. My name is Chase Oliver. I am the chairman of the Libertarian Party of Atlanta, and I'm also running because I'm an activist who is deeply committed to criminal justice reforms that we've been seeing that the city has been crying out for since the murder of George Floyd, and long before we've needed these reforms. Things like ending qualified immunity, ending no-knock raids, ending the militarization of our police, and ending cash bail. If you elect me, I will be a proud, strong voice for the grassroots activists who've been out marching for these changes. I know, I know the challenges that are being faced in this country, and I know that with this short term, we can make real substantive changes if we just have the will to challenge the establishment of both parties and get work done. I know we can do that with district here in Atlanta. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Stephen Muhammad.
Thank you, Mr. Pride. My name is Stephen Muhammad, and I'm running as an independent candidate for the 5th Congressional District. I've been in the 5th District for nearly 40 years now, and my family resides here. And we've had a long-standing relationship with the various communities in the city of Atlanta. You know, Atlanta is one of the most influential urban areas in America. And being as such, it needs someone that is able to handle the different various parts that it's moving around throughout Atlanta. I feel that I'm the best one that is able to handle that. My experiences as a community organizer, we've had gang mediation sessions, we've had sex trafficking operations, we patrolled in the community, we fought for fair housing, we fought to fight gentrification to keep it out of the community. And right now we want to do things that will help Atlanta to remain the city that it is. 50 years ago, Andy Young ran for Congress. And when he ran for Congress, there were problems that were prevalent then: discrimination, segregation, and those sort of things. What the problems now is police brutality and mob attacks, sex trafficking, and those things. Of all the people that are working, that are here tonight, I feel that I'm the best one who's had the most experience to deal with those problems. And that's the future of cleaning up Atlanta and making it a safe and decent place to live. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Tails, I'll turn it over to you for our first question.
Thank you so much. And once again, just to reiterate the rules that Mr. Pride had mentioned, what we want to do is stick to a minute response for each of the questions. Make sure everybody has the opportunity to really cycle through the questions and give a thorough response. And so a minute to a minute 30 tops in your responses, please, for each of the individual questions. We'll be throwing out some initial questions and then possibly taking some of the online questions as well. And so is everybody ready? Everybody's good?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. All right, so the first question that we have coming into tonight's forum is that entering into the process of filling the late great and iconic Congressman John Lewis's seat, a bit of an unusual process was taken where names were nominated, submitted, and then a subsequent recommendation was made as to who would fill the seat. So people are having different thoughts concerning the process that took place. And to start this off, we would like to know how each of you feel about the process that has been taken so far. And the responses, we can go in the same order that we did the introductions.
Thank you for that important question about problematic processes. And I think nearly everyone has admitted that the process needs to be improved, perhaps revolutionized, and certainly reformed. But I reserve comment on what has occurred and recognize that we do need to give attention to a flawed process. As many of you will know, that initially there were over 130 names submitted. My name did arrive on the short list. I think there was a recognition that in a short period of time, we'll need a leader who can hit the ground running, someone with existing relationships on Capitol Hill, someone who understands John Lewis's philosophy and the values. The reason that he was the moral compass of Capitol Hill, and the reason why I could step in and continue and extend that role, is precisely because I have been an executive leader. I have been the leader of two anchor institutions in our community. And I'd like to use the 90 days or the 19 days or whatever it will prove to be to accomplish action on renaming the Voting Rights Act and extending its benefits, restoring its benefits that were removed in 2013. And secondly, in focusing on public health and the awful and tragic ravages of COVID in our community, especially in the 5th District, to mobilize national resources and restore CDC's authority so that we respond effectively to Corona.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Keisha.
Ms. White.
Process. I think we all have to recognize, although we have lost a dear friend in Congressman Lewis, when I think about the spirit that he embodied, a spirit of fairness, of integrity, a spirit of justice, I think the selection process was an insult and a slap in the face to his legacy. For many of us who live in District 5, there has not been competitive elections since 1982, in my opinion. I say that to say to you that for most of us, in my life, I have not had the opportunity to have this seat be open to elect new representation. And so it is my personal belief as a homeowner and a business owner in District 5 that the voters, including myself, were robbed of the opportunity to choose and select our representation. That process was usurped. I further think that the nominee process and the selection process was a sham in a level of disrespect to this process. But I also believe that the next member or the person we select, voters, must understand that realistically, this is a short period of time. We have relatively 90 days to possibly 3 weeks should this race go into a runoff. And the question is what is it that we can realistically accomplish on behalf of District 5? There's been a lot of jockeying nationwide in many, many elections, but I don't think there's anything more important than constituent service in District 5. And I think when you look at the impact of how COVID-19 has ravished our communities as well as our nation, of working families and small business owners are struggling. As a small business owner, I intimately understand those challenges, and I look forward to advocating to ensure that they get the necessary resources to thrive after this pandemic. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I was utterly disappointed with the process, and I think that it greatly disgraced the legacy of the great Congressman John Lewis. I had the honor this summer of primary the great congressman, and I accumulated 20,096 votes. And by the party not adhering to those 20,096 votes, what it told my voters and what it told the district is that their voices did not matter. the party initially, excuse me, has an obligation to understand the law and to put together a fair democratic process in which all of the voters in the district could have the confidence in knowing and ensuring that their voices would be heard. And the party took that away from the people. Furthermore, I feel that with the nomination of Senator Williams, with her being the chair, I feel that the party had an obligation to know and understand the law and to know that they also had an obligation to create a fair process and a just process that would allow the people's voices to be heard. And they did not do that. And this allowed the party to disgrace the legacy of the great Congressman John Lewis.
You can proceed.
Thank you for the question. So first and foremost, I can't really speak to internal party politics of the Democratic Party. I'm not a Democrat. But as I understand it, many voices were not heard in the selection process of who would be on the November ballot. And that is a disservice. But if we're talking about having more choices and more voices, that's actually the theme of one of the themes of my campaign, because many times in elections in Georgia, we actually only have one choice on the ballot when it comes to the state legislature or the state Senate. And that's because of gerrymandering and of partisan establishment politics, basically carving out the state into blue and red districts, and then preventing third-party and independent voices from being able to rise up and challenge on the general election ballot. I think that voters in the 5th District and really all over Georgia deserve to have more choices and more voices in the selection of who represents them in Congress. That is why I'm running. I believe that for too long we've had these establishment parties that have not really been as vocal and listening to the needs of their constituents. And I think the selection process further proves that point. And I think that if you really want to send a message to your party establishment that they need to earn your vote and not expect it, maybe perhaps vote for a third party or an independent, support ballot access, support ranked choice voting, support the re-enfranchisement of voters, because it's not just Brian Kemp and his terrible, terrible disenfranchisement of voters that's been affecting voter turnout. It's also the lack of choice and the lack of more voices in our political system. We need more choices on the ballot. We need more voices in the discourse. And that's why I'm running for this seat, is to provide a loud and strong voice for reform.
Greetings.
Go ahead, sir.
The process for the selection of the candidate to replace John Lewis in the 5th District. Ironically enough, I was texted and asked to put my name on that list. And I asked myself, I said, why would they text me? I'm not even a Democrat. I socialize with a lot of Democrats, but why would they text me? When I looked at the process and I saw what happened, there were a lot of good people on that list. And the process, the way it went, was very, very biased. It was strewed into a certain direction. And when I looked at the process and I saw how it played out, I said, wow, man, I know there's a lot of hurt people on that. So I feel for all those who put their name on the list and did not make it. But what we have to do, what I advocate, is freedom, justice, and equality. And there was no freedom, there was no justice, and there was no equality. Now, one of the things about leading, Barack Obama in 1995 came to the Million Man March. I was the Southern Regional Director for the Million Man March. Barack Obama came. 13 years later, he was President of the United States. It was the skills that he got on the streets of Chicago that allowed him to mediate, negotiate, and learn how to carry the program that he had all the way to the halls of the greatest power. And I'm the one that's best suited with those same skills to be able to take my program, my agenda, and my skills to Congress to make sure that we get freedom, justice, and equality for the poor people of the 5th District of Georgia. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. And Kevin, we'll go to you for the second question.
All right. In Congress, John Lewis was known for his work on voting rights. He long fought for more access to the polls, particularly for voters of color. We are facing one of the most important elections of our time. What will you do to ensure every voter maintains the right to vote and has unencumbered access to do so? We'll start with Mr. Franklin and go across in the same order.
Who can ever forget 1965 and what occurred on the Edmund Pettus Bridge as John Lewis and other protesters were marching to rehabilitate American democracy? American democracy has been flawed from the very beginning. And as W.B. Du Bois said, it was African Americans who helped to rehabilitate, to give democracy a chance in America. That's what those leaders were doing as they marched. And those leaders were brutalized. And today we have a moral obligation to honor their blood, sweat, tears, concussions, and sacrifices to ensure that we push back against every effort by a GOP Senate and the White House and the State House and others that are seeking to impose restrictions on the access of all Americans, and especially Americans in the 5th District, to exercise their right to vote. I fully support and I commend the leaders in the House that passed H.R. 4, the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. And I think that word advancement is important because it means there is an effort in this current bill to restore protections that were taken away, restore the importance of requiring pre-clearance in those states of the former Confederacy that have systematically imposed draconian voter ID laws, that have eliminated in many places Sunday voting, same-day registration, and all of the means by which common people, everyday people who were on that bridge that day in 1965 were able to access the right to vote. So I want to speak to the U.S. Senate. I know I would be serving in the House, but I would say to our colleagues in the next chamber, you have a rendezvous with history, because your legacy, whether you remain in the Senate or not, will either reflect that you did the right thing on the Voting Rights Act or you did the wrong thing. History will judge. I'd like to be your representative there as a moral compass, challenging the U.S. Senate to demonstrate courage and integrity at a moment of testing.
Ms. Waits?
Yes, I think that there's not anyone that is running in this election that would not champion the Voting Rights Act, as well as ensuring that Congressman Lewis is properly recognized for his work and legacy throughout our nation. But I think the issue that we also need to discuss again is, what have you already done? During my tenure in the Georgia House of Representatives, I had the privilege of working alongside former Minority Leader Stacey Abrams when these attacks came along over the years to usurp the process and to limit access to early voting in various parts of the state of Georgia. So this is work that's already been done. In addition to that, voter suppression is disguised in many ways. It can be long lines, inoperable equipment, incompetence, the closing of polls, and so forth. And so, for this reason, I reached out to the Secretary of State, as well as various officials throughout Metro Atlanta, to have conversations surrounding how we can ensure that every single voter had access, even if they did not receive their absentee ballot in a timely manner. Following the June 9th primary, I filed a lawsuit here in the state of Georgia to force Fulton County to count the remaining 48,000 absentee ballots that were not counted. So right here in our own very backyard, we are dealing with these very challenges here at home. And so I look forward to being a fierce advocate for not only marginalized communities, but for individuals that I don't necessarily agree with, because I also agree, like Congressman Lewis, that voting is a fundamental American right. Thank you.
Mr. Martin?
Yes, sir. During this summer's primary, when I primaried the great Congressman Lewis, I saw firsthand how voting rights could be suppressed. Long lines, waiting for hours, and that shouldn't even be the case. As I stated earlier within my introduction, I'm here to provide modern day solutions to modern day problems. And I ultimately feel like our constitutional right to vote should not be infringed any longer by anyone. This is why I'm proposing that the Voting Rights Act should not be an act anymore, it should be an amendment, and it should be named the John Lewis Voting Rights Amendment. And through this amendment, it will be a part of our Bill of Rights, and it will open up so many things. We live in the 21st century. People should be able to securely vote from the comfort of their own homes, from the supercomputers, also known as cell phones. I believe that as soon as a person turns 18 years old, they should be automatically registered to vote. There shouldn't be any type of obstacles in the way to simply, have or possess the right to choose your destiny. Thank you.
Mr. Oliver.
Thank you. So first and foremost, I think we all recognize that the primary that was earlier this year was terrible. We all saw the long lines. We stood in the long lines, and it was a travesty by the state of Georgia. And we need to do whatever we can to fight voter suppression. And you're right, voter suppression is long lines, but it's also disenfranchising voices. I believe that we need to have as much opportunity for all the voters to know everyone who is on the ballot in all of the races. This is why I'm so glad that you've included me in this forum. But I would like to see more inclusivity on the ballot and in terms of ballot access and ending gerrymandering of districts and things like this. We need to have more voices. Having voices to compete with you actually makes your argument sharper. It makes you a better candidate. It makes you serve the community better because you actually have to answer to someone. This constant running unopposed that happens in our state legislature really needs to end. But as far as enfranchising voters, for this election, if elected, I will be someone who will stand up and make sure that we get every vote counted. I support mail-in voting. I support absentee voting, however you can in this election safely and make that decision. And I would do whatever I can, if elected, to make sure that every member of the 5th District gets to choose their choice in this election. But again, we need to have more choices and more voices in the debate. Just look at our presidential debate. We have 4 candidates who are theoretically able to win the Electoral College, but only 2 are going to appear on the stage. And that's because the 2 parties seek to limit the amount of exposure that third-party and independent voices have. So I think if we really want to open it up, we should open up all debates to anybody who is on the ballot. So more choices, more voices. Let them speak. Let those independents speak. So thank you.
Mr. Muhammad.
Yes. Would you repeat that question? I heard a lot of answers, and I missed the question, or I just heard a lot of different. Would you please repeat that for me?
Not a problem. In Congress, John Lewis was known for his work on voting rights. He long fought for more access to the polls, particularly for voters of color. This seeks to be one of the most important elections of our time. What will you do to ensure every voter maintains the right to vote and has unencumbered access to do so?
I thought that was the question. Well, you can't do anything in Congress without the Republicans and the Democrats both voting for it. Frederick Douglass said, "Power never conceives anything without a demand. It never has, and it never will." So if I walked over to the Senate as an independent and talked to Mr. Mitch McConnell, the leader of the Senate, and had a conversation with him, well, I have to have some power with me. So maybe I would call for 25, 30,000 people, maybe 100,000 from the 5th District. Let's go up there. We want to talk to him, see about these voting rights acts. Call all these Southern people that are affected by it. Then I would say, let's create a new reality. Well, when you're negotiating with people like that, my years of experience of doing it, first you have to check your ego at the door. You walk through the door and say, look, we got these people out here that are dissatisfied. And they're from Kentucky, your district, that vote for you. And they're dissatisfied. Well, what we need you to do, Mr. McConnell, is we need you to pass this John Lewis civil rights voting bill so that we can have equal protection under the law. Equal protection under the law regardless of creed, class, or color. That's what we want. We want freedom. We want a full and complete freedom. We want justice. So we want these things to happen for us, Mr. McConnell, but you seem to want to not do that. So I would have to bring a little power, a little backup with me. Now there's a big higher power upstairs. They're going to be with us. Because where there's 2 or more gathered together in my name, there I shall be also. So we're going to go and we're going to put a little pressure on them to make them do it. I don't think that the Republican Senate is just going to move because we pray and ask them. Got to put a little power, got to put a little punch behind that. So we're going to create a new reality, and we're going to make sure that we have the proper voting rights. Thank you.
Mr. Nguyen, I turn it over to you.
So moving right along to the third question, I just want to remind everybody of the time frames, if you will, so everybody can work through these questions. The third question is, as America is facing this critical point in history, there is no shortage of issues and in and throughout the country. What do you feel is the largest issue facing the state of Georgia right now? And how do you intend to solve it? Once again, what do you feel is the largest issue facing the state of Georgia right now? And how do you intend to solve it? And we'll change the order. We'll start with you, Mr. Muhammad. If you can start and we can work our way backwards this time.
It's the biggest problem that W.E.B. Du Bois said at the beginning of the 20th century. The problem in America is the color line. The problem in Georgia is the color line. It was in the 20th century, 21st century. That's the biggest problem that's bothering us right now. As we see, Black Lives Matters are in the street. What has happened is that on television, people see the actions that are going on around the Black Lives Matters movement, not necessarily them. So they see these actions and they take it as a hostile group. But what they're just asking for is that they want freedom. If you put it in words, they want justice. They want equal justice under the law. They want justice applied equally to all, regardless of creed, class, or color. They want equality in membership in society. They want the best membership and equality in society. These are the things that they're asking for. They want to stop to police brutality and mob attacks. These are the things that they are saying that they want mitigated in this city, in this country, in this state. But somehow that's being misread. So you have to have someone that's not Republican, not Democrat, not a person that binds to their religion, Muslim, Christian, or Jew, and go talk to these people and say, look, we have to make sure that we give justice to everyone. And in doing that, as I said, when you deal with people like that, you have to check your ego at the door. They insult you. They kind of condescending. But I know that most of the people that I know, their ego's too big to even get through the door, let alone go in there and talk to somebody like Mitch McConnell. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So real quick, I did wanted to say, loop back to that last question real quick. I was kind of paying attention to the time there. I would totally support the Voting Rights Act. And in fact, I would like to remind us that, there are disenfranchisement efforts, not just in the South, but all over the country. So in all 50 states, we need to be looking out for disenfranchisement of voters. Now, when it gets back to what's the most important problem facing Georgia, well, in addition to COVID, which is affecting the entire country, I do believe that my platform is based in criminal justice reforms that people have been marching in the streets for. And I do think we need to make the explanation that all lives will not matter until Black lives matter. And there are steps that we can take in Congress, and if we can get these things passed, that will provide substantive relief for criminal justice injustices that are going on in the country. Things like ending qualified immunity, which will make police have to be accountable for their actions and for their brutality when it occurs. And that makes for a safer community and more trust between the community and the police. Things like ending no-knock raids that killed people like Breonna Taylor, Duncan Lemp, and countless other people who were just sleeping in their homes, innocent people who were gunned down by police. And guess what? Breonna Taylor's killers are still not arrested. And I'm going to keep saying that until they are. And we need to end things like cash bail that create a two-tiered justice system in this country, one for the poor and one for the wealthy who can afford to buy their way out of jail pre-trial. That it needs to end. We need to end cash bail. We need to end the militarization of police, because it's not the wealthy communities where they're rolling tanks and throwing tear gas in the streets. It's the communities of District 5, many of which are poor and communities of color. And we need to be standing up for them, just like we need to be saying Black lives matter, because Black lives do matter, and all lives won't matter until Black lives matter. In addition to that, Black lives won't matter until we start talking about trans lives mattering too. There is an epidemic of trans violence in this country, and that's another thing that I would like to talk about as a member of the LGBT community. We need to be making sure that criminal justice reform happens. We need to be making sure that all people can live free and happy as their authentic selves and in their own life, regardless of their creed, color, sexual orientation, or gender expression. Thank you.
Yes. Well, the two most foremost problems I see within Georgia are healthcare and poverty. I feel that since the beginning or the rollout of the Affordable Care Act, the Republican-led General Assembly has opted out of the funding needed to ensure healthcare is financially accessible by the people of this state. Adding to the fact that a pandemic is going on, we see many of the weak areas within our healthcare system. This is why I created and I'm proposing the People's Bailout. The People's Bailout is basically my platform, and it consists on the foundation of universal basic healthcare and universal guaranteed income. I believe that in a country such as America that has plentiful abundance, it makes no sense and it's essentially unacceptable that our citizens don't have the basic necessities met in healthcare. Not to mention the poverty that's running rampant within the nation as well as within the state of Georgia. And because of this, it is important that we possess a guaranteed income so that the people can have a equitable floor to start upon. Thank you.
Am I up?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So I believe that the greatest issue impacting the fifth district as well as our nation is probably going to be the economy. I think that regardless of where you stand, whether you're a working family, senior citizen, or a struggling small business owner, the most important issues that we're facing today will be thriving and restoring families following COVID-19. In addition to quality of life issues, we all know that the fifth district has challenges surrounding affordable housing. And realistically, we have to also think about what can we realistically accomplish within a short period of time. And as my colleague has indicated, it is imperative that we have the necessary relationships at the federal as well as the state levels of government. I am extremely proud to have those coexisting relationships with my former colleagues in the General Assembly, as well as serving for 15 years as a crisis manager navigating tough issues such as the BP oil spill, H1N1, Hurricane Katrina, Hurricane Sandy. And so we've seen some tough issues regarding infrastructure and restoration, and I look forward to utilizing those relationships in Washington. Thank you.
Thank you.
I want us to focus on a single fact at this moment. 170,000 Americans have died from COVID, and the number continues to escalate. In fact, roughly 940, almost 1,000 people a day are dying. Taking from today's date until September 29, when this election occurs, 40 days, another 40,000 people could be dead because this White House and this GOP-dominated Senate have denied the threat and they have failed to act. There were simple measures that CDC set forth. Wear masks, wash your hands, watch your distancing, test, trace, quarantine. In other words, it may sound innovative, but it was quite simple. Follow the science. Follow the science and save lives. And instead, we are in a nation that is in crisis. 5,500,000 cases of COVID today as we speak, over 173,000 dead. And this is why I regard this as the most pressing issue, because without life and livelihood, none of the other things we all care about matter much. And it is gripping to think about the fact that because of this poor presidential leadership, tens of thousands of people will continue to die. As a member of Congress, I can call attention to these issues, but as a senior level executive at Emory University and working with CDC, which is right next door, we can mobilize resources that have still not been called into action. Let's save lives. Let's save livelihoods. Let's act now.
Thank you, sir. Kevin?
That brings us into our next question. Our president has touted success and states his administration has done a great job handling the COVID crisis. We are still experiencing major delays in testing, and the wait time to receive results is constantly increasing. What legislation would you look to pass to help Georgians deal with this pandemic? We'll start with Mr. Muhammad.
Well, as I said, I think another forum we had winning September 29th gives you about 90 days, 3 months to work. If it goes into a runoff, you have a month. The legislative calendar is basically set at this point. There are things related to the pandemic that are on the table now related to affordable health care. So be passed so that we can help to mitigate the situation. Those issues that are on the table now, because to go back, bringing bills to the floor would take a little time. And with the two vacations times coming up, Christmas and Thanksgiving and all of those things after the election, it's going to be very tight. So, but they have some bills on the floor now that would make it easier on the American people. And those are the bills that we would take up that are part of HR 7717 that would allow us to then help move into that. Because I don't know, maybe someone has a magic bullet, maybe they can create something that will get through. But right now there are great bills on the floor that was presented by members of the Legislative Black Caucus that would take care of the problems that we have now.
Mr. Oliver.
So in terms of what we can do right now, not a lot. Like you said, the legislative calendar is already set. But what I would do is I would be an advocate for in the future any kind of relief no longer being these complicated pork-laden bills that are full of things like military spending and bailouts for large corporate entities, while small businesses in District 5 are shuttering their doors because they're not essential and essential. And I think what we need to do is we need to be saying, in the future, we just need to be giving direct payments right back to the American people. Take the tax money that we've already taken from them and return it to them. Let them use it to feed their families, to keep their businesses and homes and keep a home over their head, keep food on the table, to help educate their kids, whatever they need. Let's just give the people their money back. And instead of saying, well, let's use this COVID bill as a way to give billions of dollars to the Pentagon and to the military industrial complex or to the prison industrial complex or to any other group of people who decided they wanted to lobby Congress to stick their little piece in the bill. What we need to be doing is we really need to be focusing on the actual people who are suffering and not the big corporate interests who have bought both parties. And so I would be an advocate for saying, in the future, let's just give the people their money back instead of making it more complicated and putting it through the red tape machine of government and really not providing the relief that people need from this pandemic. And in terms of testing and these other things, the federal government failed big time. The FDA and the CDC, they failed when it came to providing as much testing as was needed because of the red tape involved. So I would be an advocate for trying to simplify those procedures and change, and be a voice to try to change this so we can get more testing done quickly so that we can contain this thing and get the economy and get our lives moving again. Thank you.
Mr. Martin.
I think it's important to state that the government failed the people with the passage of the the CARES Act during this time of the pandemic. When you look at the main problem within our nation is of course healthcare and it's of course poverty. What you will have to understand is less than 60 people make almost $40,000 after taxes. Excuse me. So I think that it's important to provide another stimulus to the people, but I think that it was also important to propose a nationwide moratorium on evictions, rents, utilities, things of that nature. And the reason I say that is because it's inhumane to force people to go out and have to decide either to risk health or risk making a living and not putting food on the table. And I think that the $1,200 stimulus that was given out to all of Americans wasn't enough. And this is why I'm a great proponent of my people's bailout, because oftentimes in our nation with major crisis, you see that corporations are the first to be bailed out. But now it's time for the people to be bailed out. So to essentially answer the question. I will propose another stimulus, but also propose that it will be a nationwide moratorium on rents, evictions, and things of that nature so that the people won't have to worry about their finances in the midst of a pandemic.
Ms. Waits?
Yes, I think it's important to note tonight that none of us will be able to fill the shoes of Congressman John Lewis, and I think that's one of the reasons that it is important that the next member embody and reflect the same spirit of servanthood and commitment to people, regardless of what your party is. And there is existing legislation already before us, and we've seen we've seen the Ivy League colleges as well as large, big box businesses and corporations receive resources and funding before working families and struggling small businesses. And so I think it's extremely necessary that given the short turnaround, that the next member be able to hit the ground running and have a clear and concise plan of action in terms of what we can realistically accomplish. And I don't believe providing resources to fund a new FBI facility is where we should be in this country. I think our focus should be on ensuring that Americans have access to health care, in addition to ensuring that we support our struggling small business owners. I believe that my business acumen, civic engagement, as well as professional experience uniquely qualify me to serve in this role. Thank you.
Mr. Franklin?
What do leaders do? I had to face this question every day when I sat in the office as president of Morehouse College. Leaders cast a vision. Leaders convene other leaders and resources. Leaders collaborate with people regardless of their political, religious orientations. Leaders step in and they run and they get things done. And I would agree that with such a short period of time, we have to focus on the things we can realistically get done. Relative to COVID, there are a number of measures that have still not been mobilized. We have still not respected science. We have still not fully presented to the nation transparent data on what are the dimensions of this problem and how it is affecting communities of color and communities living in poverty in a differential way. And so I think there's an important role for leaders to call attention to that, to expose what is currently lurking and failing to find the light of day. But it's also a matter of convening the leaders that can help. And I'd love to play a key role in calling forth fraternities and sororities, small business leaders, together with corporate leaders with whom I've worked in the past. We have an opportunity to mobilize from every part of the 5th District, from north, south, east, and west, to focus on how we provide relief and how we provide economic opportunity for the next generation coming forward.
Mr. Nguyen, I turn it back over to you.
Thank you, sir. And Mr. Franklin, we're going to start with you with this next question. We've been talking about COVID-19 a lot. We've been talking about the pandemic a lot. And so now we're going to switch gears a little bit and talk about another issue that is really on the forefronts of a lot of people's minds. And this issue is really gun violence. And so even since the start of the pandemic, what we've seen in civil protests, we have seen gun violence increase. And over the years, gun violence has increased at a shocking rate. The question with gun rights a lot of the times is, do you support the Second Amendment right to bear arms? My question to you all tonight is, do you all support that Second Amendment? And what will you do as a representative to try to combat gun violence? We'll start with you, Mr. Franklin. Do you support the Second Amendment, and what will you do to combat gun violence?
Well, I support the entire Constitution of the United States. I support the preamble that speaks of we the people. I support the 7 articles that follow, the first of which addresses the power of the people, the houses of Congress. And then I also support all of the amendments, the Second Amendment included. Of course, I give a special respect and love for the First Amendment and, of course, the 19th Amendment in this special year when we honor the empowerment of women. But of course, African American women were not included in that 19th Amendment that was ratified that provided the right to vote for women. And so to focus, however, on the crux of your question, I think we're talking not just about an access to guns, freedom to own guns, etc. I think we're talking about a spiritual crisis that underlies. When a person points a weapon at another person and pulls the trigger, yes, that's a crisis of violence, a crisis of too many guns. It's many things, but it's also a crisis of the spirit. And I think we must speak to that underlying hatred, the underlying biases, implicit biases, internalized racism, all of the things that prompt a kind of self-hate and hate of sisters and brothers. And so I would be able to communicate in the spirit of John Lewis the deeper crisis that animates and underwrites the gun crisis and the violence crisis in America.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Waits?
Yes, thank you for the question. I want to again echo, I think it's important that we highlight what we've already done on these issues. Again, we're dealing with a very short window of time. Prior to leaving the General Assembly, I led the fight on gun reform, sponsoring legislation to keep guns off of college campuses and out of classrooms. This is common sense legislation. I even sponsored legislation that would require safety training for concealed carry permit holders. I am a concealed carry permit holder. 17 states, including red states, have this legislation. Georgia does not. Many don't even know that in the state of Georgia, you can walk around with a weapon, a concealed carry weapon, and not have any training whatsoever, not know how to load it or do anything with the weapon for that matter. And lastly, I'm very proud to have sponsored April's Law. What this legislation did was keep guns out of the hands of individuals who had been convicted of domestic violence offenses or who had recently went through a divorce proceeding. There were several issues right here in our backyard where individuals were shot at actual government facilities in Fulton County. And so for that reason, we know that there is a need to address gun reform. I think it has to be a common sense measure. And I think that, again, that these are nonpartisan issues. These are common sense issues. And finally, I've been working very closely with two organizations that are very instrumental nationwide in gun reform. That includes Moms Demand Action as well as Every Town. And so I look forward to continuing this advocacy and this work that we've already started here in Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Well, I guess
we
we'll let
skipped one
Barrington
person.
go after me.
Okay.
Would you like me to go, or would Barrington like to go first?
His screen is blacked out on my end. Are you there, sir?
No, I'm right here. I'm right here.
Okay. Yes, please proceed.
Okay. I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. I believe that it's one of the foremost important aspects of the Bill of Rights that we have to defend ourselves against a tyrannical government. I believe that we just have to implement common sense gun laws. That includes extensive background checks. That includes yearly mental health checks. I believe that there needs to be mandatory weapon safety in classes for anyone that owns or purchases a firearm. I believe that there should be a national registry in which people register their firearm. That way, if any type of crime happens with that firearm, the police or authorities will be able to trace who owns it. And ultimately, I just think that in alliance with having our Second Amendment rights, we must do the necessary things needed to protect American and, most importantly, protect our children from the ongoing gun violence that we've been seeing within our nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Oliver.
All right. So first and foremost, do I believe in the Second Amendment? Absolutely. Shall not be infringed is right there in the language. So I believe that every American has the right to bear arms and defend themselves, their homes, their family, their property against anybody who's invading and trying to attack them. And that includes a tyrannical government. I think that gun rights are important because they allow us to have an equal playing field. Because if we want to talk about the real gun violence in the world, we need to be talking about the people who have badges, who have guns, who are killing innocent people in the streets, who are abusing us through the tyrannical authoritarian boot. And that is one of the reasons why I support the right to own a gun. We have the right to protect ourselves. And whenever someone speaks up about this right, many times they're smacked down or, and sometimes, I mean, just ask Fred Hampton. He was killed because he supported gun rights in California as the head of the Black Panthers. So, but let's talk about, again, the people who have badges who are killing people with guns. That's the people that I'm concerned about. Those are the people who are on the taxpayer dime, who are our employees, who are actually subjugating innocent people to violence. And if we want to talk about ending violence in our streets and our communities, one thing we can do is end the drug war. The drug war creates tons of violence that doesn't need to be there. Decriminalize drugs and treat addiction as a medical crisis and not as something that we should be throwing people in jail for the rest of their life or into the industrial complex. And because when you do that, when you put people away for petty crime or for drug crime, oftentimes they become felons, they lose the right to vote, and then they don't have any enfranchisement whatsoever. So if we want to talk about ending, or if we want to talk about gun rights, we should be talking about keeping people's right to bear arms shall not be infringed. We should be keeping tabs on those who are tax-paid people who have badges with guns. And then we should also be thinking about ending the drug war, which creates tons of violence in our streets that doesn't need to be there, and have safer communities. Also, in the militarization of police, we don't need tanks rolling down the streets of Atlanta. Thank you.
Mr. Muhammad.
Yes, I, as the congressman for the 5th District, creating a new reality, do I like guns? No. Would I uphold the law? Yes. It's in several areas that I have problem with the law, but it's the law of the land, so we would uphold it. I am a pro-life person, but I would uphold the law for a woman's right to choose. So there are things there. Now, I was shot in Atlanta, downtown, back in November 1998. You can Google it. A gentleman tried to rob me, shot me. Now, he had a gun. I'm walking down the street. He pulled his gun out. We got into the fight. He emptied the gun at point blank range. I'm blessed he was a bad shot. He hit me once in the leg. He emptied a revolver, a 6-shooter. Hit me in the leg after 6 shots. So I'm glad that he hadn't had any practice with the gun, because I wouldn't be here today. So I understand. So keeping guns, someone wants to have it. I don't own a gun, have never owned a gun, will not own a gun, don't need a gun. I'm backed by what I feel is the right spirit that keeps me away from harm's way. So a gun, if someone wants it, fine. Now the problem, I think they said, was assault rifles, that they were trying to ban assault rifles. Well, that's one of the things, because what do you use assault rifles for? What's the purpose of assault rifles? Human beings, not animals, to kill human beings, not target shoot. So those are the kind of things we might have to look a little deeper into. But the right to bear arms is the law of the land, and that would have to remain. So yes, I back it. I would support it, because that's what it is, the law of the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Muhammad. Back to you, Kevin.
This will be a very, very short term in Congress. If you could, in a minute and 30 seconds, please describe to us your overall objective for your campaign. Let's start with Mr. Muhammad.
Your overall objective. My overall objective is to create a new reality here in Atlanta. Right now, we have a lot of people that are doing well, but the disparity in income inequity here in Atlanta is tremendous. Right now, I was just looking at the job report. 287,000 Black people filed for unemployment in June, and 213,000 white filed for unemployment in June. And Blacks are only 30% of the population. So that means that we have a huge, huge problem of no income. And then those that were fired were low income people. So there are problems, which means there are a lot of evictions on the thing. So we would deal with the evictions. We would deal with lack of affordable, decent housing. My program deals with gun violence. As far as I'm concerned, we can keep guns. What we would do is stop guns from coming into the black community, because right now there are too many guns coming into the black community. Now, you constantly hear me say black community. Well, that's where my work lies. Some of us, we work in other spheres. I work with the worst, the downtrodden, the locked out, the left out, those who need it the most. And when you go along places like Joseph Boone and Donald Hollowell, named after great men, the worst places in the city of Atlanta. But when we go to Buckhead and the streets are named San Marcel, then they're nice and they're beautiful. So we have to do something to make sure that Atlanta turns around the way things are going. We need to deal with those who are the worst, the foundation of this city, those who have made this city what it is, now being pushed out, gentrification. Those issues are near and dear to me because it hurts my heart to see mothers, old ladies who've been there for 30, 40, 50 years, 2, 3 generations, and they're moved out because some developer wants to put in $1 million houses. Heck no, we need to stop it.
Mr. Oliver.
So my key objective during the brief time that I would be in Congress would be to be a loud voice for criminal justice reforms. There are things that we can pass in Congress if we have the will to fight the establishment of the parties and say, you know what, we're going to get this done with or without Nancy Pelosi or whoever the Republicans got over in Congress, because there are things that we can get done. We can end qualified immunity. There's a bill to do that right now. It's 3 pages long. It requires no amendments, and we could pass it tomorrow if there was the political will to do it, to end qualified immunity for law enforcement and to hold police accountable. I want to talk about ending cash bail. Right now, there are 500,000 people approximately across the country sitting in jail, not because they have committed a crime, but because they are too poor to afford the bail or the bond to get out. And that is wrong. We should not be holding 500,000 people in jails across the country because they're too poor to buy themselves out of it. That is completely backwards. And these criminal justice reforms, ending no-knock raids. Breonna Taylor was murdered. Okay, we've been talking about COVID and the first responders and all the great work they've been doing. But the truth is Breonna Taylor was a first responder to COVID, and she was murdered in her bed for no reason at all. That didn't need to happen. So I want to be a voice for those people who have been marching in the streets, for the grassroots activists who have been tear gassed and beaten with a police bludgeon, the police baton. Just like, and I want to honor that legacy of John Lewis, because when John Lewis was a young man, he knew exactly what it took to be out in the streets and fighting for freedom and fighting against injustice. His skull was cracked wide open. That is more in the fight of liberty than we have really, any of us on this panel have done in our lifetimes. And I want to honor that legacy by speaking up for those people who have been systematically abused by police, the criminal justice system, our courts, and our DAs. Like, think about Ahmaud Arbery. We didn't even hear about him until a leaked video months later because of the crooked DA system out there. Think about Philando Castile. If we're talking about gun rights, the man was killed because he had a concealed carry permit. He told the police the gun was in his glove box, and he was shot dead anyway in front of his partner and his child live on Facebook. These are people that we need to be speaking up for. These are injustices we need to be fighting against. And while I can't change the wheel, I can't reinvent everything in a few weeks, what I can do is I can be a loud voice for these reforms that need to be heard, because I will make sure they are heard in the Capitol. You can rest assured on that. Thank you.
Mr. Martin.
Yes, I think it's time to end the political bureaucracy that have monopolized the power that Congress has taken away from the people. I think that, we are going through a political renaissance right now in which the people deserve more and the people want more, and the people have been very vocal about Congress not doing their job. And I think ultimately I want to put Congress on notice to tell them that it is time for them to do the necessary things to be public servants and to stop profiting off of the very people that entrust them with their future. Within my primary, I was on the front lines. I took a political beating from the great Congressman Lewis so that I can show the people that there is another choice and that we are heading a new direction in which it's time to implement and put in the necessary leadership that's going to take care of us for the present and take care of us for the future. I think that also with the processes that went down with the Georgia Democratic Party, it goes to show that voter suppression is just not a problem of the GOP, but it's a problem of the Democratic Party as well. And the people deserve a voice, and the people deserve a right to possess the agency over their futures. Thank you.
Ms. Waits.
Thank you. District 5 is one of the most diverse districts in our nation as well as in the state of Georgia. My primary objective is to continue to be a voice for marginalized communities that have not always been allowed a seat at the table. This would include working families, senior citizens, small business owners, as well as members of the LGBT community. As my colleague so eloquently stated, the transgender community has been under attack for many, 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 many years. And so it is my hope to utilize the relationships that I have existing at the state and federal levels of government to move some of the issues that have been challenges for many, many, many decades. Again, I am a fierce advocate for marginalized communities and working families, and I look forward to continuing the legacy and work that Congressman Lewis started many years ago.
Mr. Franklin.
You know, someone once said that the two most important days in life are the day you were born and the day you figure out why. And I believe I was called to public service. Public service is more than elective office. It's also committing your life to nurturing and educating and mentoring the next generation. And that's what I've done for over 30 years of my adult life. It's bringing people together, educating, inspiring, guiding them in paths that are productive. My principal objective to your question, in the brief time, whether 90 days or 19 days, what have you, is to leave a positive impression of the 5th District on Capitol Hill during these days that the world continues to mourn John Lewis. This is still a season of grief, of mourning. I want to express my condolences to John Lewis's extended family, the pain they must be feeling as we gather, but also the grief of over 4,800 Georgians that have perished because of COVID-19, because of poor leadership, because of the failure of leadership with voice and moral authority to help educate the public and guide them on a better path. I want to introduce people to the 5th District, where I have lived for the past 35 years. I want them to know something about Atlanta, the global assets that are here in this city. They already know, they need to be reminded, those are 5th District assets. The airport, CNN, Coca-Cola, CDC, global assets. But then take a trip with me and see Riverdale and Forest Park, and out on the east at Candler Park and Decatur, up north to Buckhead and Habersham and Roswell, and out west, Fulton Industrial. See the beauty of this extraordinary beating heart of Georgia. Our hearts are heavy tonight because we've lost John Lewis. We've lost over 4,800 fellow Georgians. Let's put an end to this. We need urgent moral leadership to help turn the corner on this COVID threat. And that is the objective of the next congressperson from the 5th District.
Thank you. And I turn it back over to Mr. Wynn for the final question.
So yes, this is the final question. Once again, thank you all for hanging in and continuing with this very, very important forum. So I know why this election means so much to me. I understand and know very personally why the legacy of Congressman Lewis matters to me. And having had the opportunity to work for the late Congressman John Lewis and to staff him on different occasions, and for him to even support the work that we're doing in the community, Congressman Lewis's legacy means a lot to me. What I want to know is, why does this election mean so much to you? And why are you running at this particular juncture in your life? Why does this election mean so much to you? And what we'll do is we'll start with you, Mr. Franklin. Why does this election mean so much to you? And why are you running at this point?
This election means a great deal to me because I knew and loved John Lewis. And John Lewis's message, his life, his legacy deserve to be properly honored, properly honored. And that is something that I could do. I've done that as the president of two anchor institutions in the 5th District. And it is something that requires a certain sensitivity. You know, we've all done important talking tonight, and that's the forum you invited us to participate in. But I think there's also an important revealing question that you did not ask us, and that's, who would you listen to? And I think we'd all have some compelling answers to that. I want to listen to the legacy of John Lewis, but listen to the young people who are in the streets, who are protesting. Listen to the elders who are worried about whether or not they'll be able to feed themselves and purchase their medicines, because this GOP Senate is not responding to the important measures that are on the table already to provide those stimulus checks and support. And so we need to listen. And I want to do this because it's a way of honoring John Lewis's legacy and carrying that and transferring that baton to our successor who comes after us. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Waits, why does this election mean so much to you? And why are you running now?
Absolutely. I was born and raised in District 5. I am a 47-year resident of the district. I was educated in the public school system, where I started elementary and middle school in the city of Atlanta. I later graduated from DeKalb County High School, Lakeside, which is in DeKalb. I have built my business here and I own my home here. So I'm very much vested in the success of the 5th District. But more importantly, I want to echo the sentiments of my colleague. This is a once in a lifetime opportunity to continue the amazing work and legacy of our dear friend. And again, I believe that this person must embody the same spirit of compassion, fairness, and equity that he demonstrated. I had the amazing privilege as a member of the General Assembly of representing many of the cities here in District 5, College Park, portions of the city of Atlanta, Forest Park, East Point, Hapeville. These are all very unique communities on their own, and it is extremely important that the next member have the capacity to hit the ground running and to be effective in terms of actually accomplishing realistic goals. And I am guided by a specific set of principles that are governed by my faith. And I believe that I best embody that spirit necessary to serve in Washington. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mark.
You can go ahead. Are you muted?
The district is my home. Atlanta is my home. This is the city that raised me, bred me to be the man that I am today. I've been living in this city since the beginning of, or since after John Lewis's first tenure as congressman. I've seen the distinct changes that the city has undergone. However, there have been communities in many different places that have been, you know, left disadvantaged, forgotten about. And this is the people I do it for. I do it for the 20,096 people that supported me within the primary. And I do it for them because I think it's important that they understand that they have a voice and they have someone that, despite any of the issues of voter suppression that went down within the nomination process for the nominee for the Democratic Party, I want them to understand that they have someone that truly cares, that's truly for them. And that's the biggest reason that I'm here. That's the biggest reason that I'm fighting for them. And that's the biggest reason that I will continue to fight for them. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Oliver.
So I'm running to provide more choices and more voices in our politics. And I want to take the voices of the people that I've heard and take their voices and take them to Washington, D.C. so that other people may hear them. I hear the people who are on the streets, who are fighting for criminal justice reform, who see systemic racism in our courts and in our police, and who need a loud voice in Washington, D.C. to fight for them. I listen to the voices of the single moms who wonder how they're going to have better schools for their kids or a safer neighborhood for their kids to grow up in and have those real concerns. I hear the voices of the new immigrants in the city who are asking, well, what's going to happen to me? You know, we see people being caged at the border. What's next? You know, I want to speak to those voices who see injustices from government. I want to solve those problems and be someone who's going to be an advocate for the people in this city. We've been talking a lot about different issues, and one thing I want to talk about is immigration. John Lewis was a fighter to allow the immigrants to come to this country and build their own American dream. The last time I saw John Lewis speak in person was when I saw him in an immigration march against ICE detaining against detaining immigrants in the Atlanta City jail. And he ended the march. We were between two buildings, the Russell Davis Federal Building and the Martin Luther King Courthouse. And I'm paraphrasing the great John Lewis here. But he said, one of these buildings is named after an avowed segregationist, and one of these buildings is named after a champion of nonviolent resistance to oppression. And we need as a country to decide what side of the street we're going to stand on. And I think we need to stand on the side of the street that is against oppression in our courts, in our police, and in all facets of government that hold people down. We need to be unleashing the wonderful capability of people to do great things in this country. And that's what I hope to be a voice for in DC. That's why I'm running, is to help people have a voice in Washington, DC, where right now we just have two parties that are too busy fighting each other than to actually get things done.
Thank you. Mr. Muhammad.
Thank you. In the Bible, Jesus says, where there's no vision, the people perish. Behind me, over my head, I have a map of the 5th District. Of that, I've marked out all of the areas where people live less than everyone here today that is speaking. They don't have as much, they don't live as well. These people I have put special attention on because no one pays attention to the poor. In 1972, Andy Young was elected to this 5th District seat. A year later, Maynard Jackson was elected as mayor of Atlanta. They created a new reality. But the reality that they got elected on, that the city had become majority black. When Maynard Jackson was elected mayor, Atlanta had the #1 police murder rate of black men in the country. He brought in Reginald Eves to help get rid of John Emmon and the problems that it was creating. #1 murder rate for black men in the country was here in Atlanta. So now you have a unique opportunity in 2020 because of this pandemic and the things that have happened, that you can elect Stephen Muhammad. Stephen Muhammad is a man that will work for you. He'll put his life on the line for you. Those of you who've been left out and locked out and left behind, you know in your heart that I'm the one for you. In your heart, you know I'm right. You know I'll do for you. And you know I'll create a new reality for you. That's what Andy Young and Maynard Jackson did. If you go with anybody else, it's the same old thing. If you want your life to change and you want things to go better for you, then I'm your man because I understand your problems. There was somebody a few years ago said, I feel your pain. And then he created a crime bill that locked most of you all up. And you all who I'm talking to, you know who you are. And you know what I say is true. So in your heart, you know I'm right. Vote Muhammad so that we can create safe and decent places to live. And we can create a new reality that you, your family, and loved ones can have a place in the sun for yourself. Thank you very much. Vote Muhammad, a name you can trust.
Thank you so much, and best of luck to each of you candidates. Kevin, I'll turn it back over to you.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us tonight for this special Congressional John Lewis Legacy Forum. I'm pretty sure that he is looking down on all of us and smiling at these passionate and candidates is full of integrity. We thank you so much, and we hope everyone stays engaged to November 3rd. We have a very important round of elections coming up. Once again, thank you to Teos Wynn for stepping in and moderating along with myself, Kevin C. Pride. Thanks to James Welcome for producing this. And this has been a Newsmakers Live production. Thank you so much.
Have a good night.
Thank you.